Okay, good afternoon, Year 5, and welcome to today's maths lesson. It's weird saying that. It's the first time I've had to say that. Okay, so of course we're missing out English today, as I said in yesterday's live lesson, because we don't have a live lesson today. So we're doing maths instead of English, and then we'll catch up all of it on Monday when you're all back. So let's move on. So we're looking at multiplying mixed numbers by integers. Remember, an integer is just a whole number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they're all integers. Okay, so we've got our cookery class here. They've got 5 children, all keen to start their cooking. And we've got the soup challenge here on the right-hand side. And the teacher wants them to make this soup. So for 1 pot of soup, you need 1 1/6 of a jug of stock, 1 1/2 onions, and 3 1/4 potatoes. Okay, so that's the ingredients you need to make this soup. So we'll put the ingredients there. So your first question is then, 5 children take part in the soup challenge. How many jugs of stock do the children use in total? So how many jugs of stock do we need overall? What calculation are we going to do for that? So here we go, I've just written it again at the top here. There are 5 children in the class. Each child needs 1 1/6 of a jug of stock. So of course we'll show that here. So we've got child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4, child 5. Each of them needs 1 1/6 of a jug of stock. So there's the first child, there's second, third, fourth, and fifth. So every child now has 1 1/6 of a jug of stock. Okay, and to work out how much we've got overall, then what we could do is we could add them all up, or an easier way of doing it then is, of course, as we've been doing in the last couple of lessons, multiplying. So we're doing 5 because we've got 5 children multiplied by 1 1/6. So how are we then going to tackle this question? Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at it into 2 different parts. So we're going to do 5 times 1 and 5 times 1/6. So we're doing 5 times the whole number, and then we're timesing 5 by the fraction. So 5 times 1, nice and easy. Here's my 5 whole jugs. 5 times 1, and of course you get the answer 5. And then 5 times 1/6, so there's my 1/6. And if we add them all up, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6. It's as simple as that. And our answer then, we put them together, is 5 and 5/6. And it's as simple as that. So when we're multiplying our whole numbers, our integers, by our mixed numbers, we'll do 5 times, so you multiply by the whole number first, and then multiply by the fraction, and then just add them together. So back in the kitchen now with our soup challenge, and this time we want to see how many onions the children use in total. So again, we've got 5 children. How many onions do they use? It's a 1 1/2 onion for each pot of soup. So let's have a look. So we've got 5 children again, and each child gets an onion and a half. 1 1/2 onions, 1 1/2 onions, 1 1/2 onions, 1 1/2 onions. Okay, simple as that. So what we could do, we could add them all together, or of course, just like before, we could do multiplication instead. So we've got 5 multiplied by 1 1/2, 5 children multiplied by the 1 1/2 onions. And we're going to do the same method again. So we split it up, so it's 5 times 1 and 5 times 1/2. So there's your 5 onions. 5 times 1 is obviously 5. And then here's my 5 half onions. Just like that. So what we do then, if we add them together, we've got 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, 4/2, 5 halves. 5 over 2 is right answer. So, and then we put them together and have 5 and 5 halves. But obviously you wouldn't say, oh yes, I've got 5 and 5 halves, 5 half onions, would you? Okay, you would put them all together. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to convert this improper fraction, 5 halves, into a mixed number. Okay, so here are my 5 half onions, 1 half, 2 half, 3 half, 4 halves, and 5 half. And we need to work out then how many onions this is altogether, because you wouldn't say 5 halves. So what we're going to do, we know that 2 halves make 1 whole. 2 over 2 is just 1 whole. If we put 2 of these half of onions together, you'd get 1 onion. So remove those 2, put them together, you get an onion. Same for these 2. Put them together, you get an onion. So now we can see we've got 5 halves still of onion. So we've got 5 halves, but we wouldn't say that. We'd say 1, 2 1/2. We've got 2 1/2 onions. Okay, so 5 halves is exactly the same as 2 1/2. So if we go back to this with our children, with their onions now. So we've done 5 times 1 1/2. We got the answer 5 and 5 halves, but we've converted that to 2 1/2. So we've got 5 plus our 2 1/2, and of course we get the answer 7 1/2. So there are 5 children in the class. Each child needs 1.5 onions. So overall, they need 7.5 onions between them. Okay, and lastly then, for this soup challenge, the last thing they need to do then is work out how many potatoes the children use. So there are 5 children in the class, each child needs 3.25 potatoes. So we'll do the same thing again. Here are my 5 children, and we're going to give each of them 3.25 potatoes. So they've got 3.25, they've got 3.25, they've got them, and they've got them. Every child then has 3.25 potatoes. And what we could do, again, we could add them all up together, but it's much easier, instead of doing 3.5 and 3.5 and 3.5 and 3.5 and 3.5, or 3.25, sorry, we can just do 5 multiplied by 3.25. And we'll do the same method again. We'll split it up, so we're doing 5 times 3, so 5 times our whole number, and then 5 times a quarter, 5 in a fraction. 5 times 3, so here's 3 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 5 times, and if you add them all up, you do your 5 times 3, you'll get, of course, 15. And we'll do exactly the same for this. So here's 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So we've got 5 1/4s. Let's add them up. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4. And then we can put them all together. But of course, you wouldn't say you've got 15 and 5/4 of a potato. You're not going to say that, so we need to convert it so that our mixed number, or our improper fraction, sorry, 5/4 is turned into a mixed number. So here are my 5/4, and I'm going to do exactly the same as I did with my onions. We know that 4/4, if we have 4/4, it makes 1 whole. So 4/4 is 1 whole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these quarters together. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 makes 1 whole. So we've got 1 whole potato. So as we can see, then we've got 1 whole. And don't forget this quarter over here. So we've got 1 and 1/4. So 5/4 is the same as 1 and 1/4. So we go back to our potatoes, then we know that 5 times 3.25 worked out as 15 and 5/4, but we don't want to say that. So we've got 15 plus 1 and 1/4, and if you add them together, 16.25, and that's your final answer. Okay, that's it for today's maths lesson, and guys, so please get on with the works on your Google Classroom. Okay, get in contact with me if you need to, although it should be very self-explanatory. Run back through the video if you're confused. You're doing the same method and the same technique for every single question. Okay, so don't worry if your numbers are a bit confusing, if they're quite big or whatever. You're doing the same method every time, so it shouldn't get confusing. Okay, thank you very much then, Year 5. Enjoy the rest of your day.